Well, hello everybody and welcome back to the ZHP Garage. It has been a minute and we want to explain why it has been a minute.
So a few weeks ago we had a tragedy. My father, his grandfather, had passed away, so we had to take some time off and deal with
Everything.
family, life.
Yeah,
So
live stuff. So this got backburnered.
we're a little delayed. You can see we have some new additions here. We got some new toolboxes and benches that we'll show down the road.
We'll give you a sneak peek of the two toolboxes right here that were my grandpa's.
Old dinosaurs.
So the relationship for both of us between my grandpa and us, it's been up and down over the years. You know, it's been challenging. For the people that know him personally, watching this video, you'll understand why I say that. You know exactly what I'm saying. I'm not really going to go too much in detail of. I'm not going to go into too much detail about that. I just want to say something good. Is the reason that we are building cars the way we are today is because of him. If it weren't for him, we wouldn't. I don't think we'd be doing what we're doing. So.
I'd be a gardener or something.
Fireman, who knows?
Yeah.
You could be flying airplanes.
Paramedic.
You could be on a golf course.
Working on Mazdas. Who knows what I'd be doing?
Yeah, so.
Yeah, lot porter or Mazda. It's pretty random. That's the good.
I don't think there's much else good to say, but we're gonna keep it at that.
So my dad had a lot of cars, maybe drivers you can call them. They weren't too exciting, but a couple of them were pretty cool. A couple of them are still around, so we'll be showing them. There'll be videos on them later coming up. Pretty trick. We did a post of one of them on Instagram if you follow us over there, and Facebook. So yeah. You can see that car over there on Instagram or Facebook. It's pretty. It has some bad stuff, but it's overall pretty trick. It's pretty trick. So that thing's still around. So we're gonna do some change into it, so it's more drivable. That's why we had our absence here. So.
Yeah. But now that we're back, we got a lot of stuff ahead, man.
We got catching up to do.
As you can see by the title of the video, we're working on the 62 Impala.
Been a while. Sorry, Mark. It's been a few minutes. We're getting on it now.
We're getting to it, man.
We're on it.
We're getting to it. We've been excited to work on it. Just as excited you've been to see us work on it.
Yeah. So thank you for your patience.
So without further ado,
let's get to working on it.
Let's get started.
Got it cleaned up. We got the gasket surface all clean, scraped, and then we put a fresh coat of paint on it, just because you'll see the top of it here when you put the intake on. And then we got the new fuel pump on it, but we resealed the little adapter here for the fuel pump. Now we got a really nice clean spot, so should have kept going, but we got to stop somewhere. Next thing you know, you have the whole engine out painting it, but then now we're putting the intake on it. So we got our gaskets. These are the gaskets that the owner supplied. Felpro 1205s. They're a little on the big side, but it's not gonna hurt anything. It'll be all right. So we're gonna do the same like we do on all of them. I'm gonna put a little silicone around the water jackets. Put the gaskets on there. We'll run a little bead of silicone, just like that. Put the intake on it. So we got our silicone here. We're gonna do it. So we got the gaskets all ready, the silicone on here. You just want to make sure that your gasket's not sticking above the valve cover surface, or else it'll kick the valve cover gasket up and make it leak oil. Also, we got our plug in here like we talked about. It was 1.25 inch, just a brass soft plug. So we got the old original breather capped off, and we're gonna add the oil pressure sender after we get the intake on there, just so it's not in the way. We're gonna have to put a little stand on here because it's too big and be in the way of the intake by itself. I gotta get a little piece of pipe, and I'll probably kick it at a 45 or something to get it out of the way of the intake. So now we're all set up here. We can get the intake on here. If you remember, we got a nice, the owner got a nice Edelbrock intake for this guy, and we got just new bolts. It's a pretty easy deal. Probably give this a wipe real quick with some brake cleaner, make sure it's all nice and dry. put it on there.
Doing a good job.
High pressure air nozzle right there. Let's do it. Let's go down straight down to it. Eeh. Fancy stuff. 67 Dave ain't got none of these, that's for sure. Oh, I don't have any either. So if you remember, we have our Mallory Unilight distributor. You can see that you can add O-rings on here. You have to, it's a good idea, you can put them in there without, but you should chamfer the block before you use the O-rings. This didn't even come with the O-rings, but you have the option to add them if you're able to on a block that was prepared for it. But we got our assembly loop here, we got our gear lubed up. We have our new gasket put on it. So I have all the bolts in the intake, but it's not tightened down. So I want to put the distributor in it to make sure that it's aligned and it's not binding on the distributor anyway. So I already spun the engine around the top dead center. So now I'm able to put the distributor where I want to have it. So I want this part of it to be the front. So this is going to be facing me. And then number one's going to be right here. So this is my number one. So I want the rotor to be lined up over here after I get it in there said and done, so it's actually straight. Now I gotta put it in there without dripping the assembly all over the place. Easy. Shove it in there. Doesn't fit, give it a good hammer.
Hammer time.
No hammer time.
Hammer time. Oh, it's not fitting good. Where's the hammer?
Uh-oh. So just like always, because we spun the engine around, the oil pump shaft doesn't line up with the distributor. Now we gotta find out where the oil pump shaft is. It's like a common occurrence thing we got going on here. I think it's close. I can see it. I can feel it. There it is. So now we need to walk our little distributor. I think about a tooth off or so. We're pretty close. Let's come forward here one. Oh. Where's my gear at? There it is. I think that's where we want to be right there. So it has our little indexing little mark here. It's going to go to the front. You see the little indexing mark? So we're going to have our number one's going to be here. Mark where it's going to be. Right on the money. I like it. We're going to run it right there. Now we can go ahead and finish tightening down the intake. So now I'm going to put on the thermostat here. We've got a new thermostat, a little 180 degree. Then we're going to put on our new thermostat housing. And I like to put a little bit of grease on the O-ring, just so when you move it on the intake, it's less likely to pinch the O-ring and cut it and then have a leak. Slide on. And also the grease helps the O-ring stay in there, so when you flip it over, it doesn't fall out on you. Then I put a little bit of anti-seize on the bolts, because they're going into aluminum. And I'm just going to put this on here, and I'm just going to snug it down, because we don't have the radiator here. We don't know exactly where it's going to wind up being. We'll snug it down, see if we can rotate it. More likely it's going to be straight. That's normally where the 62s are, but we'll just leave it like that for now. I think I want to put the valve covers on it next. Let me grab the gaskets and the valve covers. We have our hold downs. They kind of spread out the load, helps on the gasket sealing.
You ever get the rubber band off?
Jeez, if I can hold them and ditch the rubber band. Oh, man. Man down, man down. And then we have our bolts. Not a T-style, it's just a normal socket, just a little taller. And then these are just the studs to screw into it. See how it has a little Allen, or a little Phillip on there? We're gonna put the studs in first, snug them into the head, and that helps hold everything in place, the valve covers and everything. So you can, gaskets will all be lined up. You just slide the valve covers on there. So that brings us to the valve cover gaskets here. A little worried about these. I think they'd be all right though. They're a little on the thick side, but I think our hardware here is long enough that it'll make it. See, they're pretty beefy. Pretty beefy. Let's see if we got enough. We're gonna make those short valve covers into talls right now. See that? Studs hold it all nicely in place. These ones here, you can see that the holes kind of have a little slop in them. So when we put the valve covers on, you gotta make sure that everything is in the right spot. And up top here, if you have your intake gaskets too high, the valve cover gasket will run into it. But we got it in the right spot, so our valve cover gasket sits nice and flat. And we have our Racer X valve covers. You all ready for this? Look at that. Woo-wee.
You can even see me. See me right there? See? Oh yeah.
Don't be breaking the valve cover. So both valve covers are the same way. So one of the breathers, so one's going to be in the back. So the filler, I guess, will be on this side. We'll put it in the front over here. So call that the filler. We'll put the PCV valve on the rear on this side. And it has this lip on here, so I want to make sure that the gasket, this thing should sit pretty flat. Something's holding it up. Oh yeah, right here. See, the gasket came out of the back. So that slop it has, gotta make sure to tuck the gasket in there. There it goes. So now we're gonna finish them up, bolt them down. I checked it with a mirror. I went around and made sure that the gasket was all even the whole way. Valve covers fit nice and tight, or not tight, but nice and flat down evenly. So now I can go ahead and put the hold down nuts on here, snug them down. You don't want to get too crazy on the valve cover hold down because you can split that gasket out. So now we got both valve covers all on, tightened down. So your breather grommet is going to be a different size than your PCV valve grommet. They made it easy because they put the grommets on there. So we put our grommet in first. So this valve cover is baffled. So the grommet's wide open. You can get a baffled one. You can do either way. So we're going to put that in there. So we have our filler / breather on this side. So same deal. We got a baffle on this side. So it's just wide open. Put our grommet in there. And then our PCV, it has this little plastic cap. If you wanted to, you could take the cap off if you wanted to run it straight for some reason, but the cap's just a little 90. It comes with it. So we're going to run the cap. So we're going to put the PCV valve in here because we're just going to run this over. And we'll probably use this port right here for the vacuum. So just go a little short line. So now we got here, we're going to put the carburetor on it. We're not going to put it on finished though, because I decided to get a spacer for this. I'm going to do a little phenolic spacer, but I'm going to set it on there just to seal the intake up. And plus it didn't come with any mounting hardware. It has some fittings in here for the intake and stuff, but the fuel line. Actually, I think this is all for the fuel line, so there's nothing for the vacuum. We got a nice, I like this here. Everybody runs the AFBs. He decided to go with a nice little Holly, little guy. Little vacuum secondaries, electric choke. Really nice little street carburetor. I think it's gonna be trick. You got the little sights here, you can set your float level, little clear glass. So like I said, we're not gonna mount it, but I wanna put the gasket on here just so nothing moves around. It's not a big deal, but I like to use a 4-hole gasket when you're running dual plane. I mean, it's not much of a little leak, but I like it better if you run a 4-hole. The spacer that I ordered is a 4-hole 1/2 inch, so it just matches. I think you get a better signal with it, and then you get the cooler to keep the carburetor, the inlet charged, the happier everybody is. So we can just set this up here. It's gonna look really nice. And just to show you, let me grab the air cleaner real quick. So this thing has a drop base, and a lot of times you run into problems with the drop bases on the AFBs because of the fuel inlet is over here. So the way the nipple sticks out and then the hose, it hits on the drop base, but this is designed for the Hollies. That's why it has the 2 little notches here for the kneeling seat. So with the spacer on here, so you gotta line up the little notches. With the spacer on here, we're still gonna have plenty of hood clearance. And it'll look nice. It'll give it a little taller, make it look a little meaner, like a higher rise. Then you'll have that nice heat insulation. So this comes with a carburetor. So these would go in here, the front and back. Then you would take your long hose, you would put it on here, and then you go to the back one. Then you see it comes up here. Then you run your short piece, would go here. Then your fuel line would come in. I think it's a little hokey. I don't care for it. So we're not gonna run this. We're gonna get something a little different. We're gonna get a nicer fuel line. Then because this carburetor's a vacuum secondaries, you see it has a little top on here. This is the quick change, they call it, because normally there's a screw underneath here. You gotta take the whole thing off to change the spring on when, so it determines when the secondary is open. So this has the quick change on it. So it's just the 2 screws you pop up and you change the springs in here. And it comes with a couple different options. You see that one's a little bit taller, but the tensioner on them is different. So just, you can tune it. So for the engine, because if it opens too quick, it's obviously gonna cause a bog. And then if it opens too late, it'd be like a lean miss. So once we get it running, we're gonna play around. We'll have to deal with the jets and get it all dialed in for this application. So I think the last thing we're gonna do here is we're gonna put the new headers on it. The ones that we showed you before, the nice headers. I gotta get this battery cable and the wires out of the way so we can get the header up here. Gosh, this is one idiot. He loved that. He started a car and he loved the stinking. Be under the hood or something, be all. I'm like, that's really cool. Can you stop beating on my subframe that I just sandblasted and spent all my money on to paint? All right, let's find these headers we talk about. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can find something. Hold on. I found it. Ugh. It's right here. Oh yeah, you remember those? Looks like you're trying to get away with fender well headers or something. We're gonna put the passenger one on first. We gotta find them, we gotta keep digging. Side exit. We open this one up yet? What in the world? This thing looks like a spider web. So if you remember.
I don't remember.
Well, let me show you.
Hey, whoa.
Let me settle down.
Don't knock over the production.
So if you remember, it comes with gaskets and bolts. But the gaskets are good. The gaskets are gonna work. But these bolts, not sure what they were thinking. You get these really nice headers, and you got these crusty bolts. That, yeah, they're black now. I don't know, they just didn't do it. I didn't like them. So, we got these bolts. Check this out. What do you think about these bolts? Oh yeah, that's much better. Bolts that come with it. Nice ARPs. We stepped it up. All right, I'm gonna go down and see if I can sneak this header in here.
You're hitting it pretty good. I don't know.
I'm hitting everything. I'm hitting the frame here. Well, the bottom didn't work. I'm gonna try the top. I think I might have to take the starter off though. I can already see that. I'm gonna take the starter off.
A few moments later.
So I went ahead and took the starter out of the way. These lines might be a little bit in the way, but I think I can massage them over. Hoping I can make it up in here now. We're gonna try it around, what is this, version 3.0. See if I can sneak it in here now. Oh. I think we're on to something. I think we're on to something. Time to take the spark plugs out now? All right, well, let's take the spark plugs out now. When all else fails, take more stuff apart. I feel like I just had these out though, but it was so much fun, I'll do it again.
You like doing this?
Uh-huh.
Is it fun taking the spark plugs in and out and in and out?
Yeah, version number 4. You gonna make it? You gotta get like on the other side of that ear.
You're not hitting up here, I know that's
I'm hitting everything in the kitchen sink. This back right here needs to get on the other side of this ear to go up. I think I need to start over.
All right, so it's the next day.
Pulled an all-nighter. Not really, but
Kind of.
almost. Ran into some good old problems with the headers, but we got them on.
Yeah, so let's show you this right now. We'll show you, you saw we had to take the starter off and the spark plugs, but we'll show you what they look like on. Check this out.
So we got both headers put on this fine jewel. Drivers wasn't too bad. Decided to take the oil filter off and obviously the spark plugs in the dipstick tube, but it went up in there pretty easy. So I thought I was gonna have to jack up the engine. So I took out the engine mount bolt. Then I didn't wind up jacking up the driver's side. And then I forgot to put the bolt back in. And then the header was in the way. So I had to take the power steering pump off to get the bolt in. That was my own fault.
Good job.
So the passenger side was a real challenge, a real bear. We had to take everything apart. We had to take everything but the kitchen sink out of this thing. We had to jack it up as far as we can go with it. But somebody put the bolt in the engine mount, in my opinion, the wrong way, because you have to take the fuel pump off to get the bolt out. I couldn't get the engine mount bolt out because I don't want to take the fuel pump back off. I just got done putting it on. So I unbolted it, the mount from the block, which made it a little harder to line everything up. But we got it. We jacked it up. It's a tight, this one's a tight fit. These header tubes, I don't know what's going on here. I don't know what they're trying to do on this side. Pretty tight back here to the firewall too. It's gonna make some heat inside the car. I might put some sort of wrap on this back tube, and then this tube here. The fuel line's right here. So it's a little close to this guy here. So I'm probably gonna I might do a wrap, heat wrap here and a heat wrap here on the firewall. I mean, it's kind of pointless to add air conditioning if you're just heating up the inside of the cab. But we got it. We got the starter put back on it. The starter just barely made it. Back to square one. Got the battery cable hooked up to the starter. I didn't do the solenoid wires yet because I'm pretty sure I'm going to eliminate the little jumper here. I'm just going to keep the ignition wire. I'm going to eliminate the one that goes to the ignition, so it gives it 12 volts because we're adding the MSD box. So it'll have plenty of spark. We don't need to give 12 volts to it. On the driver's side here, I need to clean up the wiring. I don't need any of this because the alternator we're putting on here is the internal regulated, and it doesn't need a trigger. It's a one-wire alternator. So I'm gonna take all this out, and then obviously we need to get rid of the external regulator. And this one here I pulled over. This one went to the battery. It pretty much feeds the whole car, the whole fuse box inside. It's a little small. I think it's a little small. And plus we're adding AC to it. We have a little more load inside, so I'm gonna go a little bit bigger gauge on this. So in between now and the starting of the next video, I'm gonna put on the alternator, the air conditioning compressor, the AC compressor.
The air conditioning compressor?
The air conditioning compressor. I'm gonna put on the alternator and the air conditioning, the AC compressor. Oh my gosh. In between now and the next video, at the beginning of the next video, I'm gonna install the alternator, the AC compressor, the phenolic spacer for the carburetor and studs will show up. So I want to get the carburetor mounted. I got new bushings for the linkage, so I'll get that all set up. And then I need to order a distributor hold down and a fuel line. So hopefully I'll have that miscellaneous stuff. I'll have that put on. We'll show that. And then we're going to go into removing the rest of the factory heater box and controls. We'll get all ready for the new AC. And we'll get the old stock gauges and clock out of the dash. We'll put the new ones in, get that all set up. So that's pretty much what you're looking forward to on the next go around. So make sure you subscribe, hit the bell, the warnings, man, you want it all. Come on back.
All right, just like the Master Mechanic said, stay tuned for the next 62 Impala video, and stay tuned for the very next video, because I think we got a good surprise for you coming. It's a surprise every time we upload.
What is it?
So you always got to stay tuned.
What is it though?
I'm not telling you, it's a secret. It's a surprise.
Oh, I have to wait?
Yeah.
Aw, come on back, let's do it.
Goodbye.